I want to show a few different ways to represent this matrix inside of Python. So let me start out, instead of making exactly this matrix, let me make one where every row looks the same. So let me say, how about matrix? Okay, it's just going to be a list or a list of lists. And then for I in range 4, so that represents that there are 4 total rows. And then to the matrix, I want to append, and now the contents of this list is also going to be lists, so that's why it's called a list of lists. And so, let me just show a quick example. So you can think of this as the 0th row, this as the first row, and so on. And so I could type out the numbers 0, 1, 2 up to 9, but definitely a better way to do it. Well, let me do it slightly wrong first. What happens if I tried this? So kind of right means the right thing, but I really want to have a list here rather than a range object. So how can I fix that? Well, let's just convert from a range to a list. Okay, so I wrap it inside of list here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. But now notice that I don't have the correct first row. Okay, if I go 0th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, I don't have the correct 1st, 2nd, or 3rd rows. So how can I fix those? And so instead of always appending the same list, I need to append something that's a little different. So for example, one way to do it would be I could say, go, instead of starting at 0 every time, let's start at 10 times I. So it'll start at 0 the first time, or maybe the 0th time. It'll start at 10 the first time, and so on. And then we'll go to 10 times I plus 1. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So for example, if I go back up and look at my matrix, looks correct. And what kind of object is it? What kind of type is it? Is it a matrix? Nope, it's just a list. Only special thing about it is that the elements inside of the list are also lists. Okay, if you took Mathematica with me, we worked a lot with, or if you took Math 9 with me, we worked a lot with lists of lists. So this was one way to make it. What would another way be? So let me show you a way to make it using NumPy. So let me import NumPy as NP. And let's look at the help documentation for the zeros function. Okay, that's part of NumPy. So here it is. And the first input is supposed to be a shape, which is supposed to be either an integer or a tuple of integers. So let me give you an example of how this works. Say I do np.zeros and then 4 by 10. So you can see that here again I have 4 rows and I have 10 columns. And it's formatted a little more nicely than this one. You can see how here they don't line up quite as nicely. And so let me call this A for array. And let me copy and paste it down here. And so now I want to make, for example, these the numbers 0 through 9. I want to make these the numbers 10 through 19, and so on. So let's use nested for loops for this. So for I in range 4, for j in range 10, and let's say a I comma j. Oh, and I was using MATLAB notation there for a second. Should be using square brackets. A I comma j. And let me just set that equal to j for now. This won't quite be right. So what did it do? For each of the 4 rows, it went from 0 up to 9, including 9, and it set the thing in the ith row and the jth column equal to the index of the column. So for example, in the second index column, we always got these 2s here. And so that's pretty good. Now, instead of having just j, let's have 10 times I plus j. Hey, that's perfect. And let me go back and look at this zeros function. So you can see that this represents that the default argument or the default data type for those entries is a float. If I'd like to get rid of these decimal points, since they're always integers, I can just specify that data type. So here, after the shape, okay, this tuple represents the shape. And now I can say dtype equals int. And you can see that those decimal points went away. Yeah, I was trying to think if there was another way I wanted to do it. Yeah, let's do it one more way. This one will be super quick. So let's say b equals numpy dot arange 40. And let's look at b. So this isn't a two-dimensional numpy array. It's a one-dimensional array. Okay, so there are 40 elements. For example, if I ask what is the shape of b, okay, it says it is length 40. And since there's only one number in here, that's why I say it's one-dimensional. Okay, good. And now what I can do is I can say b dot reshape. And then let's just quickly look at it. So here the the first input is supposed to be what shape do I want. So let's do b dot reshape 4 by 10. And so this did not change b. I can tell that because it printed this thing out. But let's do, for example, c equals this reshape. And then if I look at c, there's another way that I got that same NumPy array. Yeah, that's what I'll say for this video. Thank you for watching.